Hello Internet, my name is Misc and I am a satellite system engineer by trade. Every month, I take notes of important news. I try to explain why are they important and how could they be relevant to us. And at the end of every month, I take my cell phone, turn on the audio recorder, and narrate the news for the audio savings. This way, in the future, I will have an audio note to compare to, and also I put it on the internet so that if someone finds it useful, then I'll be very happy. So the time is 12:07 a.m. on 30th August, and I have really concluded all the newses. And we start with Russia. Russia is going to the moon again. Almost after 45 years, Russia is going to send a lunar lander, Luna 24, to the moon. And it will be next year, 2011. They have most of that assembly already done. They have 9 onboard instruments, and including one from ESA, the European Space Agency. European Space Agency has provided Russia with an autopilot system, so it's a terrain-based autopilot system for the moon. Russia already has the plan from 20s, Luna 26 through 29. It's already in the making, and they will be researching the south pole of the moon. Now, South Pole is a very interesting place. Is apparently this is the location where majority of the space players are planning to have their lunar base over there. Now, one thing I don't quite understand yet, that why is moon base so important? The USA has their Artemis project, the lunar gateway. Japan's Toyota has put a lot of money towards developing a moon rover. So honestly, I'm not exactly sure why there is so much money flowing towards the moon, but this is one of them. So Russia will be studying the lunar surface, studying the regolith, and they also have a plan for a sample return mission as well. The second news I want to cover is the Mars rover Perseverance. Now this is the third and the final Mars launch. As you already know, every 2 years the distance between the Earth and the Mars is reduced to the minimum, and we have the opportunity to launch satellites or orbiter or rover to the Mars to understand better. And this is one of those projects. So Mars Perseverance is another rover which will be landing on the Mars surface and trying to study further. The most interesting part will be the Ingenuity drone. So it is a drone specifically designed and developed to fly on the Martian surface. If Ingenuity or if this project is successful, then it will be the first drone flying on a planet other than Earth. This will be a major breakthrough. So more like as the NASA scientist puts it, it will be the Wright brother moment, but for Mars. And this drone is very specifically designed, weighs just under 1.8 kilograms. The blades measure 1.2 meters. This drone will be safely tucked under the Perseverance rover, and the drone itself will be lowered by a sky crane. So it will be definitely some things to look forward to. One interesting aspect about the rover this time is that the rover will have a microphone attached to the external surface of the landing. I have to how to say the landing probe, the landing rover. I mean, when the rover will be landing, there will be a microphone at its external body, so that we will be able to hear the parachute pop or the rushing of the wind and all the noises we are expecting during the landing. So this is the first time ever that we will be able to hear sound from a planet which is not Earth. Previously, the sounds from the Mars was simulated by some other instruments, but this time, the actual microphone will be picking up the sound. Now, this external microphone is not really expected to survive for long; it will die after a while. But there is a second microphone attached to the SuperCam system. SuperCam system is how to say a rock studying thing. It will be shooting lasers at nearby rock, and after the how to say the laser cracks the rock open, there will be some kind of pop noise or disturbance, and that pop sound is expected to be captured by the microphone, and that sound profile is going to tell us more about the composition of the rocks on the Mars surface. So yeah, quite interesting. I mean, just imagine you'll be able to experience a surreal experience. You'll be able to hear sounds from another planet. Now, some of you might be asking that why could not just put a video camera also, and we will have the total experience. This is actually very impractical. Sending a video file from about 77 million kilometer away is very impractical. If you don't believe me, try sending a video file to your friend over Bluetooth, standing about 6 meters apart. You will see that is quite difficult. Philippines is celebrating its 1 year of space law. So in August 8, 2019, Philippines first had space law. The act or the draft was signed into a law, and although it is not really a news, it's just a celebration. I still want to mention is that when you think about space, when you think about farsightedness, in my mind, Philippines does not come at first. First, is the USA, Japan, Europe, China, all these other countries. But Philippines has had a lot of success over the recent years. So it's I mean, congratulations to Dr. Joel and his teams. I mean, they're doing amazing work over there. One more news from the South Asia is that India and Nigeria has signed an MoU, or a memorandum of understanding. Now, the specific of the treaty or this understanding is not quite known, but what we know is that India is promising Nigeria help. India is promising Nigeria help related to all kind of space activities, ground station, microsatellites, whatever you name it. I mean, there's no conclusion from this, but it's a news worth noting. Oh, I almost forgot about this one. It's another news from the Asia is that a Pakistani rocket company has declared their intention to launch from Pakistan. The company in question is known as the Rocket and Satellite Company, TRSC. On a side note, it's very generic name. I would really expect a better name to be memorable. So the Rocket and Satellite Company could be anything, but it's them, the Rocket and Satellite Company of Pakistan. Anyway, so this company claims to be the first private space company, and even in my knowledge, this is the first company that came across. Which I know is from Pakistan and a private company, and their intention is to launch a rocket on the 14th of August 2025 from Pakistani soil. The interesting fact is that 14th August is actually the Independence Day of Pakistan. So they are actually planning to give a gift to the nation on that day of a private rocket launch from Pakistan. Now, the reason I'm very much interested in this company is that launching a satellite launching a rocket is quite challenging technically and even more challenging legally. Because when you are launching, when you're having a rocket capable of launching a satellite to a geo orbit or a LEO orbit, even, you basically have the capability to launch a missile. So it's very tricky to develop. And I'm not saying that Pakistan does not have the ability. Pakistan does have a lot of firepower, but this is satellite we're talking about. This is rocket hoping to launch satellites and hoping to compete with ISRO probably. And ISRO is actually dominating the market in the Asia. Yeah, I don't think it'll be wrong to say that ISRO is quite dominating company when it comes to satellite launch in Asia, apart from Japan. So it will be quite interesting. And usually, what happens is that at every spaceport or every rocket launching site, there is a body of water or unoccupied land towards the east of the launching site. So when you look at the map, you look at the Cape Canaveral spaceport, you will see that there's sea for a very how to say for a very long distance. Same goes to Tanegashima spaceport. Same goes to Indians Hariram or some spaceport. I forgot their name. But Pakistan does not really have a body of water to the east. They have a body of water towards the south. So I'm not really sure how the legal thing will play out. So I am very much interested to follow this company as how they tackle the legal issues as a private company, not as a government entity, but as a private company. We move on to SpaceX. SpaceX is not really known for automating their manufacturing process. Their main focus is to have a rocket that is reusable, and they have been really proving that their rockets are quite reusable with very minimum refurnishing. And recently, they have flown a rocket booster which has flown 6 times, I believe. So yeah, that's their focus. So they are not really planning to automate their manufacturing process as Electron does. Electron rockets are targeting for a 3D printed rocket boosters. I'm not sure quite sure if they are successful yet. So anyway, but I think SpaceX is looking for automating some part of the manufacturing process for their Starship because the ship is so large. It will be more practical if they had automated some part of it. So they are experimenting with installing heat shields by using robots. Now, there has not been a specific or a formal official statement regarding this. We know about the heat shield installing robots from a Twitter handle known as Boca Chica Girl. So that's what we all know. So yeah, apparently SpaceX is automating a portion of their manufacturing process. Another SpaceX related news, this time the Starlink. There are some leaks on the internet which indicates that the beta testers of the Starlink internet are getting internet speed in between 11 to 60 Mbps, mostly around and above 30 Mbps. So this is okay, great news. But what is not so great is the latency. The minimum latency I found was stated to be 31 milliseconds. Elon Musk was claiming that the Starlink satellites and the internet will have 20 milliseconds of latency. So they are still 11 milliseconds off. Now, usually I'm not so nitpicky, I'm not so specific, but the main selling point for the Starlink satellite is their latency, the low latency. And although a normal human being will not really notice the 31 millisecond latency, maybe except for gamers will definitely notice. But in normal day-to-day use, this 31 millisecond is fast enough. But I'm still critical because the main selling point of the Starlink satellite or the Starlink internet service is the low latency. If if the latency is still 31 seconds, then this is an issue. But anyway, this is a beta test, so it is not final, and I will be waiting for the official independent test reports. And another moon related news is that NASA has shot a laser at the moon and successfully received a reflection back. And by doing so, they have successfully measured the distance between the moon and the Earth. And the reason this is important is that by shooting lasers and measuring the round trip time of the laser, we can effectively calculate the distance between the Earth and the moon. And NASA has been doing this for quite a long time. And in the last 50 years of measurement, NASA has now have enough data to conclude that the Earth and the moon are drifting away from each other at the rate of 1.5 inches per year. So this is definitely a new discovery, a new knowledge. Now there were reflectors located on the surface of the moon, but due to dust or other effects, scientists have not been successful to get the bounce back from those reflectors. What they're doing is that there is another reflector installed in a lunar orbiter, and they have been firing lasers at that lunar orbiter. They have been trying it for quite some time now, but only recently, they have had the success. So that's how we know. So there's one more. So this is one more thing to keep in mind. Next, I want to talk about another space startup company that has really got me excited in recent times. Space, sorry, not Space Wrap, WarpSpace is a Japanese startup company, and very recently it has raised $3 million for his operations. What WarpSpace intends to do, it wants to build a satellites, rather a network of satellites, which will relay the data and telemetry from other satellites. So we call it TDRS, or telemetry and data relaying satellites. Now, for these space missions, we do, NASA and the other big agency, they have their TDRS, but this will be a commercial TDRS for other commercial companies. So imagine Planet Labs, right? They have so many satellites in orbit right now, so they can practically produce a movie for you. If you want to survey an area, they have so many satellites that you can ask them to take a photo of that area at an interval of few seconds. So by compiling or the stackpiling those images, you basically get a movie out of it. So imagine how much data these satellites are producing, and the challenge will be, and the challenge is actually, how do you effectively download all those data? So there are basically two categories or two ways you could do that. One is by increasing your bandwidth, and number two would be onboard processing. I want to first talk about onboard processing. So what I mean about by onboard processing is that, what do you actually hope from a satellite? Let's say a weather satellite, right? A weather satellite, I want to know whether it'll be rainy or sunny tomorrow. Now, in order to do that, we need to have a weather satellite with a lot of sensors on board, and those sensors those sensors will be taking data and sending those data to the ground station. At the ground station, we will have an expert looking through all the data, compiling all the data, and trying up with the weather predicting model, and finally telling us whether or not tomorrow will be raining. So by onboard processing, what we could effectively do is, somehow using AI and machine learning models, we could do this processing on board. After collecting all the data, the satellite could process the data by itself and just tell us whether it's raining tomorrow or not. Now, this, although seems possible, is not really a thing of the present, rather a thing of the future. We are still quite far away from doing this kind of operations, but this is one possibility. Another possibility is another way to download massive amount of data is to increase your bandwidth. So what you could do, you could buy and install powerful transceivers that can transmit at higher bandwidth and higher bit rate. So at a small amount of time, you can get more data. But you have to keep in mind, for higher bandwidth, the cost is also higher, and you really don't have infinite budgets, right? So that's one option. Not always the best option. Second option is to have multiple ground stations. So let's say you could have a ground station in the United States, another one in the UK, another one in the Asia, another one in Australia, so on and so on. So wherever the satellite is, you have a ground station in the line of sight, and you can just download the data all the time. This is something we also have explored through our BIRDS project. Braconmesh actually had access to 5 other ground stations on the Earth. So there were Mongolian ground station, Nigeria, Ghana, Japan, and Bangladesh. Right, 5 ground stations we could download. And there is also a private company, Infostellar. So Kurahara-san's company Infostellar is looking at the same thing. They want to form a network of ground station, and have kind of a distributed network to download your satellite data. Option C is actually TDRS, the telemetry and data relink satellites. With enough TDRS, your satellite will always have a direct link to the ground station. It's more like an internet in space. So imagine when you are on in your office, there are multiple Wi-Fi routers throughout the office. No matter where you go, you have a Wi-Fi router in your site, and you can just connect to one of the Wi-Fi routers and just connect to the internet. TDRS will be basically the same thing. If the TDRS is within the line of sight, if it can communicate with the TDRS satellite, you can just send the data to the TDRS, and the TDRS, as the name suggests, it will then bounce back the data back to the ground station. So you will have continuous connection through with your satellites. There is one issue though. You have to point your satellites, or you have to point your antennas towards the TDRS. So this becomes an additional challenge. Not only you have to point your satellite to get the image that you want, to get the data that you want, and then you have to reorient your satellite in a particular way so that it sees another TDRS satellites. And I'm reading that the TDRS by the WarpSpace, they will be naming, let me check, Wrap Hub Intersat. So Wrap Hub Intersat is supposed to have optical communication links, and I don't know if the customers' satellites are also required to have optical communications, but if that is a requirement, that will be even tougher to pull it off. I mean, pointing a radio antenna is tough. Pointing an optical communication device is even tougher. So when the rap space succeeds, there will be another gold rush in the satellite industry. There will be a rush of data, an enormous amount of volume of data that we will have to process that can be monetized. So yeah, I'm pretty excited, and I'll be keeping an eye on this company. Speaking of internet in space, we have Amazon's Kuiper constellation. I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. Kuiper, Kuiper. So it's basically the Starlink satellites, but from Amazon. It is Amazon's answers to SpaceX of an internet, space satellite based internet. So SpaceX made the Starlink satellites. The Starlink satellites will provide internet to the ground users. Amazon is trying to do the same thing. Amazon will build Kuiper constellation, and this Kuiper 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 constellation will provide internet to the users on the ground. So they have only cleared the legal hurdle. They have the FCC green light, so they now have the legal rights to launch the satellites, and their spectrum is allocated. But if you ask me, Amazon is a little bit late to the party. I mean, OneWeb constellation just went bankrupt this year. And before that, we had Intelsat going bankrupt. Even before, we had the Iridium satellites. And Starlink actually did not quite have success yet. They have done demonstration, they have done some tests, they have beta testers, but they are not selling the devices to general public. They are not generating revenues. They are not making any profits. Yes, the SpaceX market cap has jumped significantly in recent times, but it does not mean that Starlink satellite will still be a success. There's still risk, and even for me, I'm skeptical. I'm not really 100% confident that it will succeed. I know the company is run by Elon Musk, but yeah, even though Mr. Musk has had enormous amount of success, this will still be a challenge for him and for his team. And now Amazon now Amazon is coming to the party and saying that, okay, we will also build a satellite company. I mean, come on, dude, really? I know Mr. Bezos has a lot of money, and this investment will be a tiny fraction of his money, but But Mr. Bezos, you might be losing a small percentage of your money if this company goes bankrupt. But we will be left with space junk to deal with. Any satellite that will be launched and fails, if they fail, it will just be a space junk. So yeah, I'm not super happy about it. So let's see how it goes. Now we come to the Elon Musk section. I mean, there are actually I should have started with this section this month because there are so much SpaceX related news that it has literally dominated the news cycle for the first 15 days of the month of August. So instead of going through news by news, I will be going through as a story so that is a little more easier to follow. So it all started with the Demo 2 mission, right? The Demo 2 mission, it successfully launched two astronauts to ISS, but it was time for astronaut Benken and Hurley to come back, and which they did. They successfully came back to the Earth, and it was a successful mission. And with that, the Demo 2 mission was declared to be successful. That's point number one. That's enough reason to celebrate, but don't get ahead of time because as soon as it was successful, NASA's administrator Jim Bidstein, I never get his name right. So NASA's administrator declared that okay, now we will have SpaceX at launching four more satellites for the Crew 1 mission. And so this will not be a demonstration mission, this will be an actual mission. So instead of flying the Russian launcher, now they will be flying the SpaceX launcher. And so yeah, NASA basically said, shut up and take my money and send four more astronauts to ISS for me. The Crew 1's mission is currently scheduled for October 2020. So very soon we will have more news to cover. Okay, so yeah, like I said, this was enough of a reason to pop a bottle of champagne and the whole company to celebrate. But wait, they're not done yet. They went ahead and did two separate launches. In the two separate launches, they launched total of 115 new Starlink satellites in orbit. Right? 115 new Starlink satellite in span of 2 weeks. Not only that, in one of the launches, they reused one of their boosters for the sixth time. They used a booster for sixth time with a perfect landing. With a perfect landing and capturing the fairing by the board they have. Oh, and I almost forgot the SN5. It did a hop test. Just imagine, within 15 days, they bring back the two US astronauts. They get a new the contract of Crew 1 is finalized. They launch 150 new satellites. They catch the fairing by their ship twice. They used a rocket booster for the sixth time. And SN5, which is basically a giant water tank, did a hover test and it was successful within 15 days. And after all of this, there were 75 investors showed up and basically said, shut up and take my money. So as of August 2020, SpaceX has now raised plus 2.07 billion US dollars in equity. And with that, their market cap has risen to $4.5 billion. A company which was dying in 2008, a company which did not have enough money to pay his employees, a company which did not have enough money to stay afloat in 2008, has a market cap of $4.5 billion in 2020. Mr. Musk, hats off. Really hats off. I mean, what you have done here is unimaginable. With rocket launch, we are pretty much sure that after every few launches there will be a mishap, there will be an accident, there will be a scrapped launch, something will go bad, and it does go bad. But for SpaceX, I think they're taking the reliability to the next level, and they're taking the reliability to the next level by using an old rocket booster. I mean, wow, just wow. Oh, did I mention that Elon's other company, Tesla, just beat the stocks and the Tesla's market cap went even higher? Days like this really puts me into depression, man. Like what the hell am I doing? This one guy is running multiple companies, having a market cap of $1 billion, and what the hell am I doing? Before I end, there are some miscellaneous news I just want to point out, but not be talking in depth. So one of them is the one news from Slashdot, which says that pen testers discovered that Boeing 747 receives the software updates by floppy disks. You might imagine that a Boeing 747, a state-of-the-art aircraft, why is it receiving updates through floppy disk? Now, as many pointed out that although floppy disks are indeed out of date media, and it will be increasingly harder for anyone to acquire floppy disk, but if you think otherwise, in air industry or aviation industry or in space and defense satellites, whatever you say, we tend to stick to whatever is reliable, whatever is tested, and whatever works. So the floppy disk system works. It was extensively tested and it has been around for years without any problems. So the designers have stuck to it. There is another advantage to it is that if the interface, if the update interface was just by a USB device, you and I, we can easily acquire a pen drive and somehow load a virus to it and try to push into the Airbus 4, the 747 Airbus systems. But if it is a floppy disk, you and I, we won't be able to buy a floppy disk. So although it's kind of strange, but yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. And although there are two other news which are in my note, I will not be really narrating them as it's more of a visual thing than a descriptive thing. But I do want to end with a very sad note: is that this month, the August, is the month where there has been a very large explosion in Beirut, and a lot of people have died. A lot of people have lost their homes. So I want to end this note with a sad tone and praying for the people in Beirut and actually praying for the safety for all the people all over the world. This year has been a very difficult year for everyone. So I hope you stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for listening.